Hello everyone, it's Seth here, probably better known as Saffron Olive. This week, for our budget magic, we are diving into the Pauper format. If you're not familiar with Pauper, Pauper is a format where only commons can be played. It also has a ban list, which you can find on the mothership, mostly to reduce some of the degenerate decks. Cloud Post is banned, some of the storm cards that just prove to be too powerful for the format. Um, as you can see, there's some benefits and downsides to Pauper. The benefit is Pauper decks in general are super cheap. Our blue-black teachings control deck that we're playing this week is $7 online and about $23 in paper. And it's a real deck in the format. So you can buy tier 1 Pauper decks for pennies, basically. The downside is Pauper's not super popular, as far as I understand, in the paper world. I know it's not played in my area. I'm sure there's local like regions or stores where Pauper is played, but it's definitely not one of the big formats in paper. So as a result, give a shout out if this is something that interests you. I had a lot of fun making these Pauper videos this week, and I'd be interested in doing more of them. But that's really up to you guys. If you want to learn more about Pauper, see some more of these cheap decks. I definitely do some more videos every now and then of Pauper. But if you'd rather stick to standard and modern, let me know that too, because I also love playing those formats. So anyway, to the deck. We are playing Blue-Black Teachings Control. You see the teachings in there. That is from the card Mystical Teachings. Mystical Teachings is 3 in a blue, and it's an instant from Time Spiral, and you can search your library for an instant or a card with flash and put it in your hand, and then you shuffle your library. Then it has flashback for 5 and a black. So basically, it's an instant or flash tutor, which is also an instant. Pretty powerful card. One thing that ends up happening a lot of times is you end up looping your mystical teachings. You cast it from your hand to get I don't know, a think twice or a counter spell or something, and then you will use it from your graveyard to get another teaching. So you can just keep repeating that process. So it's a very powerful effect. What are we looking for with our mystical teachings? Well, the main thing is counter spells. This is our first line of defense in this deck. This is really a pure draw go style of control deck. We're not going to win quickly. We are trying to not let our opponents really resolve any spells, and if they do resolve spells, clean them up with a removal. And mystical teachings is an engine that makes this work and allows us to find what we need when we need it. Anyway, the counters, we have 4 counter spells. The classic 2 blue mana counters anything. Really the cream of the crop for counter spells. We have 4 remove souls or essence scatter. Basically the same card, just with a different name, a functional reprint as they like to say. You can counter target creature spell. We also have 2 excludes, basically like a remove soul, counter target creature spell, draw a card for 2 and a blue. So it's a remove soul that actually cycles when it resolves. And then we have 1 rewind, sort of a weird choice. 4 mana is kind of a lot, but it does have some sweet synergy in the deck, most notably with Dimir Aqueduct, where you can actually generate mana by untapping your Dimir Aqueducts with rewind. So that's our counterspell suite that we are searching out with our mystical teachings. Then we have 4 Think Twices, also can be found with mystical teachings. Just some card advantage and a way to cycle through our deck. As far as removal, we have 3 Agony Warps. This card is pretty sweet in the format because not only does it kill a creature with its give -0, -3 ability, but you can also fog another creature with the give -3, -0 ability. And all for the cheap price of a blue and a black. So a good removal option. This is our only like point and click removal. Most of the removal we have in this deck are sacrifice effects like Diabolic Edict. Another instant, target player sacrifices a creature for 1 and a black. We also have Evankar's Justice, which is sort of a pyroclasm in black, but it's a neat card because it can also be a finisher. It costs 2 and 2 black for a sorcery that says Evankar's Justice deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. But it has buyback of 3, so if you pay 5 and 2 black, you return it back to your hand when it resolves. So if you can get ahead on life and get up to 9 mana maybe to leaf up a counter spell or something, you can repeatedly cast this every turn and just grind your opponent out 2 life at a time, 2 life at a time. As long as you're ahead on life, that works. Obviously, if you have less life than your opponent, you probably don't want to go on that plan. We also have Echoing Decay. There are a ton of creatures that have 2 toughness in the Pauper format. Things like Chittering Rats are format staples, and this is a way to knock out multiple copies all at once. Also, as a way to deal with tokens, there are like Battle Screech decks, there are Squadron Hawk decks, so it's a good way to take care of those type of creatures. And it's actually sort of important because Diabolic Edict matches up extremely poorly against tokens and Squadron Hawks. And finally, oh, 2 more cards. Probe. Probe is another super sweet card. This was one of my favorite cards in IPA Limited. So you can cast it for 2 and a blue. It's a sorcery. You draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards from your hand. So basically, you just kind of cycle through your deck. Not really card advantage, but it has a kicker of 1 and a black. So if you pay 3 blue black, you also make your opponent discard 2 cards from their hand. So you draw 3, discard 2, and your opponent, and Mind's Rots your opponent at the same time. So as you'll see when we talk about our creatures, Gurmag Angler likes the graveyard being filled, and Probe is a good way to make that happen. Finally, my favorite spell, Capsize. Capsize is an insane card. This is a card that probably just should never have been printed, but I love it. It is 1 and 2 blue for an instant that returns target permanent to its owner's hand. Probably doesn't sound all that exciting, right? Well, like Evankar's Justice, it comes from Tempest, and it has a buyback of 3. So for 4 and 2 blue, you can return a permanent to its owner's hand and return Capsize to your hand. So sometimes you get up to like 12 or 14 mana, and you are returning 2 permanents per turn to your opponent's hand, most often, while not spending any cards yourself. So there are definitely times when you grind down your opponent's entire board. One of the matches in the video, this actually happens. Our opponent goes from like 9 lands in play and basically killing us to, by the end, 0 lands in play and still basically killing us. But you'll have to watch the match to see. Anyway, Capsize, super powerful. Used to be even more bonkers when they let you play Cloud Post lands in this format. Those are thankfully gone. Probably good for the health of the format, but it's still very powerful effect. Creature-wise, Seagate Oracle, basically a spell that can chump block. I mean, it's a sleight of hand. Look at the top 2, 1 in your hand, 1 on the bottom for 2 and a blue. But you also get a 1/3 body, which is good for throwing in front of a Mirror Enforcer or whatever random creature your opponent has. Also, the mono black Grey Merchant of Asphodel deck is the most popular deck in the format, and every one of their creatures, I think, has 2 power. Actually, no, they have 1/1/3, but basically, Seagate Oracle blocks every single creature in the most popular deck in the format without dying, so it's a pretty good wall. Finally, our finisher, Gurmag Angler, 6 and a black, but it has Delve, so you're often casting it by paying 1 or 2 and exiling a handful of cards from your graveyard, and you get a big 5/5 zombie fish body, which is bigger than basically anything that's played in the Pauper format. One thing to note about Gurmag Angler, we only have 3 of them, and that's really our only realistic way of winning the game, other than beating down with our 1/3 Seagate Oracle. Or I guess flashing back Evankar's Justice, or buying back Evankar's Justice. But this is our finisher. So when you play it, try to be able to protect it. Don't just run out there naked. We only have 3 of them. If they get all killed, we're going to have a difficult time winning the game without decking ourselves. The mana base, 8 basic islands, 3 basic swamps, 2 Evolving Wilds to find our basics, 1 Bajukabog, which is surprisingly relevant in this format. Reaping the Graves, Grim Harvest. These cards are heavily played in the format and are a way that non-blue decks generate card advantage, and Bajukabog is a great answer to those, comes with a low opportunity cost, highly recommended. Now we also have the for Dimir Aqueducts. Talked about those a little bit with um, Rewind, how it can generate mana. That's not the reason they're there. The reason they're in the deck is because it's probably the best blue-black duel in the format. Remember, since we're playing Pauper, you don't have to worry about Wastelands, you don't have to worry about Tectonic Edge, you don't have to worry about Fulminator Mage, any of those type of cards, Sowing Salt, so it's a lot safer. There are some land destruction spells like Choking Sands, which pop up in sideboards now and then, but it's a lot safer to play a land like this. You're not worrying so much about it getting killed and just losing you the game on the spot. Also, maybe one of the biggest additions to Pauper in a long time, the printing of the game lands at common in Khan's block. So we got 4 Dismal Backwaters. These lands are everywhere. They allow for 3 color combinations. They improve 2 color combinations. And they are just a great addition to the Pauper format. Finally, the sideboard, bunch more Evankar's Justice. We ramp that up to take care of all the little creature decks. Also, as I said, can be used as a finisher in the pinch. Chainer's Edict. We use Chainer's Edict to come in against decks like Affinity, decks like Infect, anything where our main plan is just to kill other creatures. The reason it's not in the main is you can't Mystical Teachings for it. But it's still a good sideboard option. Negate, more counter spells. Sometimes having like 12 counter spells isn't enough and you want 15. That's where Negate comes in. Curse of the Bloody Tome. This card is super sweet. One thing I've noticed is when I play the mono black deck, they have so much removal that they can basically kill all my creatures and make it really difficult for me to actually win the game. Even though I'm in a very dominant position, it is hard to not have them kill all your creatures because they just are so overloaded with solid black removal. Curse of the Bloody Tome is the solution to this problem. You bring this in. Sometimes I even take out all of my Anglers and some of my Seagate Oracles, and basically the game plan is just to counter anything they can play that is relevant, stick a Curse of the Bloody Tome, which they cannot deal with because they're black and they can't deal with enchantments, and eventually you mill them out. So that's the main matchup that card I've used it for. I think it would also be good in Control Mirrors, but I haven't had to play against too many of those. Relic of Progenitus, another answer to the Reaping the Graves, Grim Harvest type stuff. Also, I've been bringing it in against like a Mono Red Burn, just because I have so many things I want to sideboard out, and a 2-mana colorless Cycler is actually better than some of the cards in our main deck. Pristine Talisman. I actually forgot to mention that. We have 2 Pristine Talismans in the main, also another one in the board. This is the cure against Mono Red Burn. I don't think we could beat that matchup without Pristine Talisman, but with Pristine Talisman, we can almost always beat that matchup. If you think about it, a burn deck generally draws about 2 damage per turn when you include the lands that they draw and everything. So if you get 1 or 2 Pristine Talismans out, you basically can negate their entire deck with a 3 converted mana cost artifact that is also adding mana to your mana pool. Finally, Duress, another value card, mostly brought in Burn, also in Control Mirrors. It's the best point and click discard in the format, since obviously things like Thoughtseize are not legal. Anyway, I had a blast playing this deck. I love Draw-Go control decks. I would play a deck like this in every format ever created, from cube drafting to legacy to vintage to standard. Like, this is this is what I love about Magic. For me, this is how Magic is intended to be played. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the videos. Like I said in the beginning, please let me know in the comments if Pauper interests you, or if you'd rather stick to the more modern, more popularly played paper formats. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the matches. I think we have some good ones this week, and thank you for watching. Alright, back here with our blue-black Teachings deck in Pauper. Won the die roll playing first. Sand is fine. Good even. So let's see. We'll lead on Dismal Backwater. Gives us all of our 2 converted mana cost spells for next turn. Oh, we're playing against Affinity by the looks. I gotta play the island here so we can leave up our action. Affinity can spiral out of control quickly. Frogmite will let go for now. Forger, that we will counter with an Essence Scatter. 4/4 is pretty big. Just play Evolving Wilds, leave up counter spells and edicts. I think Affinity in Pauper is basically like a 5-color deck. Do we counter Thoughtcast? I think the answer here is yes. Get an island. Play a swamp, pass back. Might be able to Teachings here at the end of turn, we'll see. Prophetic Prism, that resolves. Wouldn't mind finding another counter spell, which is what we're going to do with this Mystical Teachings. Safest bet's probably just to take literal counter spell. Takes care of anything. Yeah, I think we got an Aqueduct. Means we can't leave up 2 spells. Could have Diabolic Edict in response, but kinda hate to use an Edict on a 2/2 when Agony Warp kills it. And we know he has Mirror Enforcers and Carapriest Forgers and all these 4/4s that don't die at Agony Warp. So we'll be patient for now. We might kill Frogmite at his end of turn, yeah. I think we're just going to Agony Warp the Frogmite now. Oops. Yep. So we'll get rid of that. That sets us up for Diabolic Edict next turn. On whatever creature he plays. Ooh, Rewind. That's sweet. I really wanted to be able to flashback our Teachings to get another Teachings to keep the teaching trains, what's a train do? I was going to say flowing, but trains don't really flow. Yeah. Burnt down to 13 by Galvanic Blast. What is happening now? Forger. Yes, that's fine. Dies to Edict. Now we're going to Teachings for a Teachings. Exclude is also pretty good. I guess we just Edict right now. I have multiple counter spells up. And if nothing happens, we can Teachings. I think now we just Teachings for Capsize? Yeah, let's Teachings for a Think Twice. Give some card advantage. We can get the Capsize later. Another Edict. Yeah, I think we're just going to pass here. Got a lot of action to stop him from doing anything, so feeling pretty good about where we're at. Not really worried about Fillet or Husk. I think we're just gonna Think Twice here. Wouldn't mind hitting more land drops. Think twice, found another Teachings. No lands though. There's a land. Yeah, and then I guess we just pass the turn again. Now we're getting to the point where we're gonna want to probably get Capsize going. Thoughtcast. Don't really want to let him draw those cards. Guess we'll rewind. Yes, and then we will exclude the Atog. That is one way we could die. Taking one here. I think we'll just teachings from our graveyard. To get I think just another exclude. Keep being patient for now. Now we can Angler for the low price of 1 mana. And pass the turn. This is where the teachings deck wants to be. Teachings for more teachings, countering everything. Yeah, and that's not where our opponent wants to be. So that went pretty well. Being on the play is certainly a big deal against Affinity. Here, I think we certainly want more removal, just to try to keep the board clean of those big creatures. Get rid of Rewind, Evankar's Justice, and I really don't think Capsize is that great in this matchup. I think if we live long enough to where Capsize would be good, then we're going to win the matchup anyways. This is an acceptable keep. Hopefully our opponent's hand isn't too explosive. Springleaf Drum on turn 1. So if you play something awesome on turn 2, that would, multiple things on turn 2 would especially be problematic. We have a Chainer's Edict. I have a Chainer's Edict, also have Pristine Talesman, counterspell. Oh, our opponent's doing nothing. Well, that works in our favor. Now we can afford to just pass the turn. We might be discarding here. Yep. So we are both a little stuck on lands. Man, I'm tempted to counterspell that. No, I don't think we can. Ugh. That was really tempting, because that gives him all of his colors for free. And having him a little color screwed is kind of good for us. Frogmite, we'll let Frogmite go. Chromatic Star. Now we'll just Edict away the Frogmite, I guess. Land? Oh man, a land that we can't safely play. Well, I think we gotta do it anyway. Oh, that is not what we wanted to be doing. We wanted to be leaving up counter spells, but we gotta develop our mana base. Hopefully we don't get punished too hard. As long as he only plays one creature, we're not in that bad of shape. And luckily, he still only has 2 actual mana. Forger. Into Thoughtcast. Alright, that's not bad. We can deal with that. So now we can Chainer's Edict away the Forger. And now we can go back to leaving up our counter spells. And we actually have 4 mana now, so that's encouraging. Enforcer. Maybe we let Enforcer go. I'm a little worried about him getting in a Tog down. Now we don't have to worry about that, so we will counter the Sun Chaser. I think we want to use a counter spell because we potentially want to play Pristine Talesman and leave up Essence Scatter if we don't draw land. Oh, he's playing Dispels. Jeez. Talk about greedy. Other land is solid. So I guess we just play Talesman for now and leave up our counter magic. And then hopefully get an Angler down next turn, potentially. Taking 7, which is more like 6 because we can Talesman. Alright, gain back 1. Nothing to counterspell that turn, nothing to do. Well, now I guess we just play Seagate Oracle. And take the Evolving Wilds. Then we can chump this turn, and then Angler next turn with double counter backup, without exiling our Chainer's Edict. Yes, we're definitely going to chump here. I don't think there's any reason not to. Just get an island. So Angler, exiling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of sucks to have to exile the mystical teachings, but I guess we didn't have to. Could have left it in there, but I don't think it really matters since we have one in our hand. So we have Counterspell and Essence Scatter. We want to keep our Angler alive if at all possible. Chromatic Star is acceptable. Sax Chromatic Star, it's blue. There's Journey to Nowhere, so that we need to counter. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have multiple Journey to Nowheres. Gets in with the Sun Chaser, so that knocks us down to 10. Although we get to gain 1 here, back up to 11. Another counterspell is fine. So we'll just pass the turn. Hopefully Mystical Teachings for a way to kill the Sun Chaser. Another Sun Chaser. Well, that needs to be Essence Scattered. Taking 3. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand. If there were 3 Galvanic Blasts, we could lose. Because I think we need to tap out for Mystical Teachings. So I think we just get Agony Warp here. Lets us kill the Sun Chaser. And an Exclude. Yeah, I guess we can just do it on our opponent's upkeep. So kill that. Make the mirror a little smaller for the turn. Not that it was likely going to attack anyway. Angler is a pretty good wall against them. We may have stabilized. Attacking. Alright, well, we will block. I'm assuming this is Galvanic Blast, our Angler. I think we can let that go. We win the long game. Galvanic Blast our face. Okay, down to 5. Reaping the Graves. Spicy. So he's going to get to return 3 creatures. Well, that's going to tax our counter spells a bit. So we'll Essence Scatter the Carepriest Forger. And exclude the Mirror Enforcer. Draw another land. Ooh, that was sweet. We can cast this with Kicker and put him to 0 cards in hand. And still leave up our counter spell. So here we'll just discard both lands. I think we're in sweet shape now. Empty-handed opponent. We can counter anything they play. Pass the turn. Once our opponent whiffs, we can Teachings. I guess we Teachings for actual counterspell here. Teachings. Our last counterspell. Teachings for counterspell. Counterspell Thoughtcast. So here we will play our Seagate Oracle. See if we can find another counterspell. Now we find another Teachings. Take the Teachings, play Evolving Wilds, pass the turn back. Maybe Capsize wouldn't have been bad if we in this position. Still not sure if it's necessary though. Sack Evolving Wilds. Get an island. Teachings for something. I think we're just going to take Think Twice, get some card draw going. We'll Think Twice here since we're going to play the Aqueduct, and we want to untap land to pick up. That was a good draw. That'll help us close out this game, hopefully. Dismal Backwater. Exile a bunch of nonsense for our Gurmag Angler. Aqueduct. Picking up an island and pass the turn. We're shields down, but our opponent apparently isn't drawing any action at the moment. So we'll get in with both. Play the Backwater. We have enough mana, we can flash back a Mystical Teachings to get a counterspell. and Essence Scatter, most likely. I guess we'll flashback teachings anyway. We're out of literal counterspell, but we can get Essence Scatter. We can also think twice here. Dispels the think twice, but not the mystical teachings. Alright. You would think mystical teachings is the more threatening of those two cards. Oh, another Reaping the Graves. Okay. So our opponents are going to return their creatures once again. I, for some reason, assumed they only played one Reaping the Graves. But I guess that is untrue. Oh, you would have been sweet last turn. Alright, we'll play our island. We'll wait on the Agony Warp, or on the Bajuka Bog till next turn, because we're hopefully going to be able to counter and kill some of these creatures. Fairpriest Forger. Yes, that resolves. Sun Chaser also resolves. Enforcer, that will be countered. Sun Chaser, so now we will flash back our other mystical teachings, get an exclude, and that does it. They were pretty much dead. With the Agony Warp in hand, we were going to kill our opponent there anyway, so sweet. Another pretty fun, exciting match there with our teachings control deck. Anyway, yeah, that's it for now.